Hope y'all doing well today. I've been shooting my bow a lot here lately, and I like to practice a lot of different angles, different positions, as far as where my body is, whether I'm on one knee standing straight up, all those scenarios, and also different shot angles. And today I'm going to make a video on specific shot angles and what to look for, what I'll take and what you'll take. Might be two totally different things, but we'll dive into that as the video goes on. And once again, it's a very controversial subject, and we're going to dive right into it. Okay, so your broadside shot on the ground. You're on the ground and this deer is up in bow range and you decide to take the shot. Ideal situation, as long as you stay away from this bone. Scapula, to me, I've shot through a lot of scapulas on deer. That's really, I try not to hit it, but if I do, I got a heavy enough arrow that I'm okay with it. It may not go all the way through the animal, but I've had good luck shooting through scapulas on deer, bear, and hog. Now, back here, you got no worries. Your arrow should blow right through and be on the other side of them. You should have a good blood trail, no problem. When you're hunting from a tree stand, one thing you want to keep in mind is the angle your arrow is going to be when it hits the animal. If the deer is right under you, you're going to be shooting straight down through him. If you're, way up in a tree, all that's going to affect the angle of your arrow. But if you hit these deer low in the body on a high angle shot, that's not a good shot. You want to be in the upper part of this deer from a tree stand. That means your arrow is gonna come out low, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I got the head off the deer so you can see what I'm talking about. But if you shoot this deer from a tree stand and you hit him just below the spine, this is gonna be your angle. You hit him up high, your exit is down low. That's good. When I'm hunting from a tree stand with a trad bow, about 12 foot is as high as I get anymore. It took me just a few sets to learn, coming from a compound history. 20 foot does not work for me. The angle's too steep for myself. Now, keep in mind, today's video is what works for me, in my opinion. Some of you gonna have total different opinions, and that's fine. We can all agree to disagree, but everybody's got to make their own decision and accept the consequence of what happens, either shot you take. But when I'm in a tree stand, I like to, on a broadside shot or any shot, I'm trying to hit this animal in the upper third. That way I get a good shot, that my arrow goes through the deer at a good angle. So if you hit this deer right here, your exit's gonna be down there. If you hit this deer low right here, that's not as good a shot as right here. So think about your shot angles. If you hit this deer in the lower third from a tree stand, you might get lucky, but this upper third from a tree stand is what I look for. And it don't matter if it's a broadside shot, quartering away. If I'm up at elevation on any animal, and this is not just necessarily for tree stands, this is for hunting on the ground in the mountains. If you're up on a ridge and there's an animal below you, I'm looking at this upper third. I do not want to hit this animal below halfway down. I'm looking in the upper half on an angle shot. And it's the exact opposite. I shot a bear this year 15 yards from me, but it was straight above me. That arrow hit that bear right where that belly hair starts, right where the hair kind of changes. And I mean, the bear went 75 yards. But so if you're on the ground shooting up, you want to enter on that lower half of the animal, preferably the lower third, to get the most, the most good penetration through the vitals. So summing that up, if you're shooting from high to low, if you're in a tree stand or on a ridge shooting down, look for that. Divide the animal in half and try to shoot that upper half. That way you get the most goody with your arrow. If you're on the ground, you on good level ground, you want to be shooting, right in the middle of the animal to the lower third. I prefer, with my self bow, I'm trying to hit this animal down here in this lower third on the ground. Now, if I'm on the ground in the mountains and the animal is up above me, like the bear I shot this fall, I want to hit that animal in that lower third. These are your angles. On the ground, shooting above you, that's what you want. On the ground level, this is what it's going to do. In a tree, elevated, this is what you're getting if you're hitting where I'm talking about. All right, that's broadside. Okay, now we're going to talk our quarter away shot, which is one of my favorite shots on any animal for a couple reasons. The number one reason is they're not looking at you most of the time when they're walking away from you, quartering away. Their vision is out to the front of them and to the sides of them, so it gives you time and lets you get away with drawing back. The number two reason is when you bust that diaphragm on a game animal, and for those of you new hunters, back here below the inside the rib cage, back of the lungs, there is a I'm just going to call it a divider between the vitals and the intestines and all that other stuff back there. But when you bust that diaphragm with an arrow, it's like it, and some of you guys that are scientists and biologists are a whole lot more better explaining about it than me, but I'm going to explain it the good old boy method. When you bust that diaphragm, it does something like to an animal that they can't take it. I mean, I think it lets a suction out, it lets whatever it does, they don't like it and generally don't go very far on it. They get sick, it just they can't take it. But that's another reason. Now, you can get a lot of arrow in this animal from that quartering away shot, and I'm going to get the camera off the stand and show you all this from above it. But you almost, if you hit this animal just in front of the hind quarters anywhere, and it also depends on your quartering away angle, but there is a shot quartering away anywhere back here you want to take it, from right here to right there, from right here to right there, and I'm gonna pick the camera up and show you. Okay, quartering away shots. This is what you want to think about. Think about where you want your arrow to exit. Where you want your arrow to exit. You're shooting for the exit. Alright, so look at this angle. That is gonna exit. This arrow is gonna enter just in front of the back quarters, and it's gonna go through here, and I'm getting my shadow in there, I know, but it's gonna go in through there and bust that diaphragm. You're gonna catch both lungs, and you're looking at an exit just in front of the backside shoulder. So you're shooting from this angle, and that's a good angle. Now you can still take this same shot, and I'm just going to move the arrow around. You know, right here you're starting to get more broadside, all right? But you got a lot of room to play with on this quarter away shot and still get, you know, a good kill. You always want to imagine where your arrow is going to exit on an animal, not necessarily where it's going to go in, but you're shooting for an exit, a good exit on a quarter away animal. But you, like I said, you've got a good wide window to get that arrow into vitals on any quarter away shot. Alright, that concludes quartering away. When you're thinking about taking a quarter two shot, you know, it's just like a quartering away shot. The only difference is the animal's facing you, and that's not a good thing. You're more likely to get busted drawing and put that animal on high alert, which is, you know, the first ingredient of a bad shot. And you know, if I got a deer coming in and I see a chance to get a quarter two shot on him, I personally will take it, but the conditions have to be right. And we're going to talk about conditions at the end of this video, or the beginning. I hadn't made up my mind yet. But once again, you want to think about where your arrow is going to exit. Now, a quarter two shot, you got to keep in mind you got that scapula there, and it can go wrong quick. If I was going to take a quarter two shot on an animal, I want that arrow to hit just in front of the scapula. And if I hit just in front of the scapula, I know I'm going to have a good fatal hit on that animal. Just inside the scapula, just inside that, because if you hit left or right, depending on your angle, you're going to hit that scapula at an angle and no telling what's going to happen. This is a very low percentage shot. Quartering away, in my opinion, is, you know, a whole lot better. But there are conditions and times you're going to hunt where you're going to be faced with, do I take that shot or do I not take that shot? That's going to be up to you as a bow hunter. While we're set up this way, we're going to talk about the full frontal shot. This shot right here is a deadly shot if you can execute it. I lost a bear on a frontal shot that was up in a tree a couple years ago, and I hit him offside. Think I one-lunged him. Not 100% sure, but the bear was up on a limb looking down at me, and I hit him offside and never found him. is a low percentage shot, but when executed properly, it can be lethal. That's going to be up to you as a bow hunter to decide whether you're going to take that shot or not. But if you run an arrow right through the center of this doe's chest and it goes all the way back there to the back, I've shot a couple deer in my life with these arrows that went in right there, and the arrow go all the way back through the back, and they didn't go far. Okay, this is the Texas heart shot, some people call it. The walking dead away from you shot. Do you take it? Do you not? Well, it's like the frontal shot. If you hit that animal just right, it can be deadly. If you miss your mark one way or the other and hit that big bone back there, it's gonna be a long day, probably gonna ruin your hunt. The odds of this, this is another kind of low percentage shot, but when executed properly, it works. You know, I've been bow hunting since I was 12 or 13 years old, and I've shot several animals straight through the rear and find them. And I've shot several animals, missed my mark, never found them, wounded them. Personally, I'm gonna wait for this animal to turn just a little bit, quartering away, and hope for that shot. But you know what happens to us as bow hunters is we got that animal coming in there, and he's in range, and you know, all of a sudden he turns and starts walking away, and right then we got to make a decision, a split second decision on, are we going to take the shot or are we not going to take the shot. I'm probably going to wait for this animal. Instead of taking the straight Texas heart shot, I'm going to hope to get a slight quarter away and slip this thing in just in front of them hams and aim for an exit up there just behind or just in front of that front leg. That's what I'm going to do. All these shots with archery, you're aiming for your exit, whether it's broadside, quarter to, quarter away. You're always aiming for your exit. Always think about that. There's a lot of range right here on this quartering away. You got a good bit of stuff to play with here, and you don't have to worry about that scapula as much. It's one of my favorite shots on any animal. Broadside is perfect too. You know, just aim for your exit and you'll be fine. You know, we all go into these hunts all gung-ho and ready to make a kill and all that, and then on the first day we get in there and make a bad decision, and next thing you know, we done spent all night tracking an animal, half the next day tracking an animal, and blowed every animal out of the country on our weekend hunt. And you know, you just basically ruined your hunt on the first day. But be accountable for your shots, and think about these percentages, and it'll help you out a lot.